Welcome to the Thai Initiative, Tailuntan, the video online broadcast where we like to bring you into conversations with leading thinkers in the America-China relationship to talk about all kinds of different topics that affect us as leaders at subnational level. Tonight, I'm joined by Edward Tang, one of my great new associates who is studying at Washington, D.C., and he's going to join us and talk about some of the work that he and others are doing in the area of community building, as he is expressing a great interest and a passion for American communities and Chinese communities. Edward, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much for having me tonight. Thanks.
Edward and I are going to be talking about the topic of patience. Last time we were on the Tailuntan, we were talking with Becco Zhou here in the Seattle area about trust in a wide variety of leadership traits exists if we want to become good leaders, and patience is an extremely important trait for leadership. And Edward and I were talking about how patience is important in America-China relations for a lot of different reasons. So without listening to me go on and on, I'd like first, Edward, to hear from you a few words about why is patience so important?
In my opinions, first of all, I think patience can create a lot of good things that people will like to hear what you say. If you are too hurry or even angry to express that, or too eager to express your ideas, that may scare people off. And also, second thing is, I think the patience can give others and give yourself, for the time to think more stuff, to think new things that will definitely can generate more ideas. And the last not least, I believe, as particularly for the educator or mentor or teacher instructor who want to people to listen them, or just to learn the knowledge, patience can play a really vital role. And the patience always can make you have a good quality for your communication. People can talk effectively and also efficiently. That's my basic idea on this.
Okay. Edward, in my passion for what it is that we're working on, and I think you would reflect this similar feeling, it's really easy when we feel passionate about something to want to get going quickly. There's a sense of urgency. We've got to get things done, things to do on the left, things to do on the right. And so many times we don't get to do what we want to do as quickly as we want to do it. And of course, right in there, that's where the patience comes in. Maybe we could talk a little bit about what it's like when you have experienced having patience in a situation where you didn't want to have to be patient. What did that feel like for you, and how did you deal with that as a leader?
So there was once upon a time at my organization, we working on a project that a lot of people want a quick result, include my organization's president herself. That actually I took a long time to persuade them. I said, hey guys, just slow down a little bit. Because even you are really hurry for this project, but what you say actually doesn't work for our clients, for our potential market. Even though our president and other board members argued with me a lot on that for a little bit, we got a good result, and they think that. For some certain things, you have to really, do that in a very timely fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly for you, with your past, under your past professional background, you can see that's, sometimes it does need your patience to solve things.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah, particularly in some like, even some like urgent situation.
One of the famous lines we have about patience is that patience is a virtue. A virtue is something that is best expressed in its moderation. If you have too little of it, that's bad. If you have too much of it, that's bad. The real quality is when you're in the middle. That's where it's most virtuous. There is such a thing as having too much patience in leadership, isn't there? What does it look like when we're too patient? What happens?
Oh, sorry, I missed your last part.
When you have too much patience, sometimes that is not helpful in leadership. We want to be patient as leaders. That's an important trait so that we can do things in their proper time and so that we can wait to see a good around instead of trying to rush and make something happen that doesn't turn out well. One of the most difficult decisions in leadership is when to stop being patient and to go ahead and go forward with a decision, to go ahead and go forward with action. In other words, you can wait too long, right? That's what I mean by there is such a thing as too much patience. I guess I should ask, have you experienced that in your life, or have you seen examples of leaders not able to make the decision to stop being patient and to move forward? Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
So I would say, like, in my past career, I found that when I was in the Ohio House of Representatives, so my supervisor wanted me to work on a project that regarding the, the increase the employment of the Cleveland area. And she said, like, hey, listen, I'm only giving you like for 1.5 months on this. And after that, I need a result on this. But, employment is always, as a person that who understand politics and also the community development, the employment is always a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're always talking about this. Which means that actually that's the hardest part. So that was the experience that I feel that she was too eager to see the result.
You think she should have waited a little bit longer?
Yeah, that's the big thing that definitely important project, but that's where she stopped being patient to deal with a really important matter.
Okay, all right. Hey, Edward, are you comfortable commenting on differences in how patience is expressed in Chinese culture versus American culture? Is that something that you can talk about?
Well, I will try.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Chinese culture, being patient, it could be mean a lot of things. You just you should be most likely you should be patient with your supervisors. Excuse me. With your supervisors, or your elders, like your father, your parents. But in American culture, it could be mean like be patient with everyone. Like your counterpart, and also the people who are younger than you, or people who has a lower social economic status like than you. That's my basic understanding on this. So like in our, or actually like in more precisely, the entire Oriental culture is like more emphasized on your they see that patients like with your or on a person that who is like superior than you or older than you, that's a virtue, or also say that as a respect or something like that. So I think that's a difference.
What I hear you saying is that in Chinese culture, it's more expected that if you are not getting the result that you want from your boss or from your superiors, that it's more expected that you should be patient with them to deliver what you're waiting on from them.
Yeah, you should absolutely outweigh them.
And that in comparison to American culture, that one's subordinates or one's peers are not necessarily the people who you have to be as patient with. Whereas in America, there's a strong sense that we want to be patient with the people that are our peers and our subordinates. Do you think that is a summary of how you're expressing that?
Yeah, I would say that's the right interpretation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't have a lot of time to go in and deeply analyze this, but I think it's easy to tell that just even with that little expression of how it is important to be patient as a leader, and yet we see such clearly different ways in which patience might be expressed in Chinese and American thinking, it's easy for there to be cross-cultural misunderstanding in situations where, let's take, for example, an American supervisor over a Chinese citizen, and the Chinese citizen is being patient with their supervisor to speak up, but the supervisor is waiting for their employee to speak. They're being patient with them because they're waiting for them to talk. And soon, both are waiting patiently for the other, and very little can happen in the midst.
Yeah, that's why I just mentioned before in our private conversation, in the past, I think the adaptation is really important. When you're in a different culture, you should be more adapted to the local culture, or let's just say the intercultural things. These are really intercultural things.
Yeah.
That also means for the future leaders, you should be much more adaptive than the leaders in the past, and you should think about always think from the other people's shoes, and also think from multiple perspectives and ways. So that will be at least can reduce the miscommunications or misunderstandings between the two different cultures, such China and the United States, the culture. Particularly let's just say in the workplace or in the schools.
Well, I guess that sounds like a really great observation and a lesson with which we can just wrap up tonight. A good application for how cross-cultural communication is demanding patience of us in our leadership traits. So I wish we could go on and on, but I know that it is about time for us to wrap up, Edward. So I want to say thank you for coming on to our Tailuntan as our guest tonight. And I want to ask if there's anything last thing that you'd like to ask or add before we wrap up.
Well, thank you again for inviting me for this special conversation tonight. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So for me, I just want to say, since you work for the multiple sectors, do you think a good leader, he should adapt to every kind of the profession? Let's just say a great military leader also can be a good politician and also become a good businessman. What do you think of this? Or they should stay in their own sector for the entire lifetime?
What I think is most important about flexibility in a great leader's leadership is the flexibility to communicate in different ways. I actually don't agree that a great military leader ought to be able to or should be a great political leader. I don't think that great political leaders would be or ought to be great business leaders, for example. So I don't think that great leadership is necessarily transferable from one sector to another within the context of one person. But what is certainly true, and great leaders should always seek to be flexible in, is the way in which they communicate with people. That's what I think. And that is a great question. Thanks so much. We always like to emphasize the idea in the Thai initiative. We always like to emphasize the importance of leadership growing. from good leadership into great leadership, specifically as it can be applied in the America-China relationship. And I look forward to seeing how your career is going to grow and grow in that area.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for having me.
I'm sure we'll have you on again at a future time. But until then, this is Carson Taverner, Executive Director of the Thai Initiative, saying 再见.
All right. See you later. Take care.